Hello everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Saga Red Dead, where we play Red Dead Redemption 2 and tell cowboy stories. Well, last week, I was listening back to the episode last week, and yeah, I was a little disjointed while I was talking. I was in the throes of being sick, and I didn't realize that it sounded as poorly as it did, so I will apologize for that, but I'm feeling better now. And we're gonna continue forward with the story of Doc Holliday. I've got 2 episodes left to finish out Doc's story, and then we'll finish out Wyatt's story after that. This entire saga has ended up lasting a lot longer than I anticipated, but I'm actually really glad for that.
Just a little.
So.
Don't you worry, Miss Crimson. Mr. McGuire is back. I'll keep them girls.
Let me see. We got a few things going on here in camp. I think he's gonna read. I'm gonna read a letter, and I think it's actually got some talking. Well, they're partying right now, anyway.
Put my hand upon her thigh. Well, what I do say, says you're getting pretty nigh to my diddle holiday. I put my hand upon her ass. Well, what I do say, she says let's lay down on the grass and diddle holiday. And we diddle did too.
All right.
It's good to be back.
On May 15th of 1882, Holliday was arrested in Denver on the Tuscan warrants for murdering Frank Stillwell. When Wyatt Earp learned of these charges, he feared his friend Holliday would not receive a fair trial in Arizona, so Earp asked his old friend Bat Masterson, then the chief of police of Trinidad, Colorado, to help get Holliday released, and Masterson drew up some Bronco charges against Holliday and set for extradition to have Holliday pulled from Arizona. Okay. So, he submitted proof of the criminal design upon Holliday's life. Late was the hour that he called at Pitkin. His legal reason was that the extradition papers for Holliday contained faulty legal language. And when I say that, I believe they're talking about the warrant, the original warrant for Tuscan had faulty legal language in it, and he was able to get Holliday out of there. So Masterson took Holliday to Pueblo, where he was released on bond 2 weeks after his arrest. Now, Holliday and Wyatt met again in June of 1882 in Gunnison.
And I cannot get it right. It's me.
We're going to go ahead and
it's me
listen to
from the
this.
bad handwriting. I know I said when we last spoke and I was going off to get married that we would not speak again. I know I said a lot of things, and I meant them, I suppose, at the time. But I'm not so proud as to not speak to people who care for me, or cared for me. I've been in Valentine for a couple of months. I had some bad luck, and, well, it's a long story and not an interesting one. But I am here for now. I saw a couple of the girls, or whatever the polite term is for them, that ran with you and your associates in town. And I heard tell of a man who sounded like you. I would love to see you again If you could spare me a little bit of your time, I'm renting a room at Chadwick Farm, just north of Valentine. Yours, Mary Linton.
All right.
One night when I was
So now, Holiday and Wyatt met again in June of 1882 in Gunderson after Wyatt helped to keep his friend from being convicted for murder charges regarding Frank Stillwell. And Holiday was able to see his friend Wyatt at least one other time, but there are conflicting reports as to whether or not he was able to see him or at least one other after that. And I tend to believe the conflicting report, honestly. Josephine Earp wrote a book called I Was Married to Wyatt, I Married Wyatt Earp is what it was called. And in her reports, they saw each other at least two other times. So it's, I don't know. I feel like historians a lot of the times they want to make assumptions based on different things and whatnot, saying that things did or didn't happen without having actual proof of it. They want to say the last time that Wyatt saw Doc was in the winter of 1886, where they met in the lobby of the Windsor Hotel. And Sadie Marcus, she described the skeletal Holiday as having a continuous cough
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
and
to
standing on
disturb you,
unsteady
ma'am.
legs at that time.
Is Mrs. Linton in?
Which would be accurate.
I'll go see.
So we'll go ahead and finish this conversation, and then we'll talk about one of the points of contention for one of the times that was in the book.
Hello, Arthur.
Mary?
I heard you and your friends was around.
Okay. Where's what's his name?
Died.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Happened a while ago. Pneumonia.
Bad business.
Sure.
So, well, you've been made a widow and you come here looking for me, is that it?
No, ain't like that, Arthur.
Oh, okay.
Listen, Arthur, I'm... my family. I need your help.
You mean the family that always looked down on me? And you want me to help them?
It's my little brother, Jamie.
I always liked Jamie, at least compared to the rest of them.
He's broken Daddy's heart.
Daddy has a heart.
Don't make me beg you, Arthur.
My money, my life, me. I wasn't good enough.
I'm sorry. We need your help real bad. Little Jamie's joined the Chelonians, that strange religious order.
Good for him.
They're quite mad, Arthur. They'll kill him. You're the only person he'd listen to.
So, I'm too rough to marry into your family, but it's okay to ask me to help in saving your family.
I'm sorry. I understand if you don't want to help me, but I think of you often.
Long time ago now.
I'm begging you, Arthur.
I say let Jamie live Jamie's life and not the nightmare that his daddy dreamed up for him.
Jamie's so innocent, Arthur. Please, Arthur. Will you help me?
Where is it?
Somewhere out near Carmody Dell, I think. The rancher there said he'd seen him around the Cumberland forest. I just want him back, Arthur. If you find him, bring him to me at the station.
I'll see what I can do.
I'll owe you.
You already owe me.
Alright, so one of the points of contention that historians are
Let's go.
not
boy.
just straight up apt to believe was on July 14th of 1882. A month after Wyatt met with Doc and Gunnarsson. Now, Holliday's longtime enemy, Johnny Ringo, and this is where the contention comes from. There are conflicting reports about what happened to Johnny Ringo, and there is only one account from a person who says what happened to Johnny Ringo before he died, or like saying that these things happened that led to his death. And then there is the coroner's report about what happened to Johnny Ringo. So they are in conflict. So I'm going to tell you this story, and then I will tell you a few things about the coroner's report, and you can make your own assumptions from there. I've always believed that this was the truth, mostly because I chose to believe Josephine Earp. But it is what it is. Now, Johnny Ringo was found dead in a low fork of a large tree in West Turkey Creek, Arizona.
Your sister is very worried.
The boy has chosen.
Now, we'll go ahead and listen to these guys, and then we'll get after it. There's a lot of talking in this episode, from me and them.
His sister just wants to speak with him.
Arthur, I've chosen a path.
The boy has chosen a path. He's chosen safety. What path have you chosen, sir? So, do you have an answer?
I don't know about this nonsense. Let me speak to the boy.
Dut. Are you always this negative and antagonistic, sir?
Only when dealing with idiots. Now let me talk to the boy. You really want to do this the hard way? Goddamn lunatic.
Who do you think you are? That's enough, Arthur!
Kid, come on. This is crap. You're better than this.
Better than what? Better than one in paradise?
Better than thinking these fools know a damn thing about paradise. Now let me take you home.
You're a sad man, Arthur. You're a real sad man.
Sure, but come home.
No, not a chance! Alone, Arthur! I didn't ask for your...
Alright. So, West Turkey Creek Valley, in the Arizona Territory. He had a bullet hole in his head. Good Lord. In the right temple, and a revolver was found hanging from a finger in his hand. Hey, here's where the conflict starts. The coroner's report officially ruled his death as a suicide. However, and I'm just going to say this, doing some research, the angle of the bullet was downward, and the gun was hanging from a finger. It wasn't hanging from his thumb, it was hanging from his finger. The angle that the bullet traveled is not conducive to shooting a gun in that fashion. To achieve the angle that the bullet traveled, he would have had to have pulled the trigger with his thumb. This is why I choose to believe Josephine Earp, because if it were suicide, the bullet angle would have been faced up or at least level. It could have possibly been faced somewhat down, but it could not have been faced at the angle that it was. And I've looked at the coroner's report. You can actually get a hold of it and look at it. It's quite interesting. Now, mind you, he was found there alone. He had his boots tied around his neck, and he had obviously been drinking, and he had gotten lost and walked for a while. And a report says that he shot himself out of hopelessness. They couldn't possibly know that. But what I do know is that forensics says that the angle of that bullet was not something Johnny Ringo could have achieved with his finger on the trigger. It would have had to have been his thumb. And the gun was found on his finger. So, that being said, I choose to believe Josephine Earp. Josephine Earp wrote that Wyatt Earp and Holiday traveled to the Arizona territory with some friends in early July. They found Johnny Ringo in the valley and killed him. Now, it's like I said, there are contentions, and a lot of people choose to believe the coroner. A lot of historians choose to believe the coroner.
Put that gun down.
Just disregarding forensics entirely. Now, a variant of the story, popularized in the movie Tombstone, holds that Holiday stepped in for Earp and responded in a gunfight and challenge of Ringo and shot him. I don't know about all of that. All she wrote in her book was that he was found and shot by Holiday.
Let's go see your sister.
Now, I choose to believe that Holiday did shoot him.
Okay.
Just because it's the only other account that exists of how Ringo died.
Have I been a terrible fool, Arthur?
And
I don't know. I
the
don't know enough about it.
other is
One
forensically
thing I do
not
know.
feasible or possible.
There
So
ain't no shame in looking for a better world.
I missed you, Arthur.
I'm gonna
Are you
choose
and
to
Mary
believe
sweet
that
on
one.
one another again?
So we're gonna talk about
That's all a long time.
Holiday's last gunfight, and then next week we'll talk
This
about
wasn't how I thought today would turn
Holiday's death and
been a
funeral
long
and
time,
burial,
Jamie
and
Gillis.
some very kind words that were
Kid
said
last
by
time I
Wyatt
saw
Earp.
you. You didn't try to kill yourself.
out. You know, you taught
However,
me how to ride a horse.
Holiday's last known
Well,
confrontation
apparently.
took place in Heyman's
Pony
Saloon
ago?
in Leedsville,
Really?
Colorado
You'd fall
in
for that?
They
1884.
were very nice to me.
Down to his last dollar, he had
Sure.
pawned his jewelry
Please tell
and
me
then
you
borrowed
didn't give him any
$5,
money.
the equivalent of $150 in
They were
2021,
charitable
from
donations.
William J. Billy Allen.
Jesus, Jamie, come on.
Now, Allen was a
I just wanted to
bartender
believe that
and a
there might be
special
something
officer of
good
the
coming our
Monarch
way one
Saloon,
day. Guess
which
that's dead in the
allowed
water.
him to
With
carry a
the
gun and make
Shut up.
arrests within the Monarch Saloon, but he wasn't allowed to carry a gun outside the saloon. He wasn't an officer outside the
You're not
saloon.
enough of a man. I had
Now,
to get away.
When Allen had repeatedly demanded that he be repaid by August 19th, or else, Holiday could not comply, and he was afraid that Allen would do something drastic. Doc knew that Allen usually stopped by Heyman's Saloon, where he was when he was finished at the Monarch. So Doc planned to confront Allen at Heyman's on August 19th.
Come on, that ain't true.
On his way to
Tell me
Heyman's,
something you like.
Doc bumped into the Marshal Harvey
Don't
Fawcett,
think too hard.
Apples,
and
I
he
guess.
explained his situation.
Yeah, I love
Fawcett
apples.
informed Doc that
Okay.
Allen could not carry a
I was
weapon
thinking
outside the
more along the
Monarch,
lines of
which
carpentry or horses
obviously
or something.
stopped people
All
regularly.
right, go work in an orchard.
Now,
By that token, you must really like shooting and
Fawcett
robbing
testified later that Doc replied, "I'll get a shotgun and I'll shoot him on sight,"
people. Father told me
showing
what
his
you do.
intent.
I'm sure he did.
Are you still with
Now,
Dutch
Fawcett
and- what was
then
his name?
went to the
Hester?
Monarch to warn Allen, but Allen had already left for Heyman's.
And Annabelle and Bessie?
Doc went on to
I'm afraid
Heyman's,
they're
where he
dead.
stashed a shotgun
Shit.
near the door
Maybe
under the
Mary
bar
did make the
and
right
waited for
choice.
Allen to appear.
No doubt.
As Allen left the Monarch,
None of it is anything
one of the
like
other
the
officers
nonsense
there,
you read in the newspaper.
warned him against
So, are
hunting
you two
up
getting back together?
Holiday
I
just then.
told you, no.
But Billy Allen
Just asking for a
answered
favor.
there would
You know Barry Levin's
there would be
dead.
no trouble,
Pneumonia.
and with careless
You
air
told me.
walked out
So the
towards
door's
Heyman's.
open, so to speak.
That's
When
all
Allen
in
came
the
through
past.
Heyman's door, Doc
Different
reached under the
people now.
bar, grabbed his
She's
shotgun,
Hey, you
and
seem
shot
just
at
the
Alan.
same.
You know, the first shot
Here
missed,
we are.
and it slammed into the door frame. Now this startled Alan, and he spun on his heel, intending to flee, but tripped over the threshold and pitched forward, landing on his hands and knees. The ex-policeman scrambled to get to his
You're
feet.
nervous about seeing
Holiday
her, aren't
leaned
you?
over the cigar case, and almost on top of the man who had been the hunter only seconds earlier, fired again. The shot hit its mark, and the bullet tore into Alan's right arm from the rear,
Make
about
it
halfway
quick or I
between the
might run off
elbow and the
again.
shoulder, and passed clear through and severed an artery in its flight. Jolted upright, Alan scrambled outside, and he staggered against the wall of Dave May's clothing store next door.
We going in
By
there?
now he was in shock and bleeding freely, and he passed out in the arms of an onlooker.
Jamie!
Alan's main artery was sewn
Jamie!
up by Dr.
Come
F.F.D. or
Please,
F.F.
you've-
Dave.
Father's
Oh, good
been
Lord,
very
that's a hard
sad.
one.
Father wouldn't know sadness if he died
Davingman.
in his bed.
We're gonna go with that.
But I'll come home for you.
My boy.
And
My
he
sweet
survived,
boy.
although his arm,
Come on.
as quoted by him, was
Oh,
always
Arthur.
funny afterwards.
Thank you. Thank
Doc
you.
was arrested and put on trial. During the trial,
And you, Arthur. And
the
you.
preponderance of Doc's testimony at the preponderance of testimony at Doc's hearing went to show that Alan was not armed. Okay, no gun was ever found. But
I've.
by that time,
you'll
overriding
never
Western
change.
credo of no
I know
duty
that.
to retreat, that had already won the day with public sentiment. And no duty to retreat was the belief that if a man was coming to kill you or hunt you, that you had no duty to retreat. You could defend yourself, and that he did not have to have a weapon. And Doc said, you know, this
Feel
man
like
weighs 50 pounds more than me.
luckiest
He
man
could have easily
alive.
beat me. I am not in good
Feel
health,
like a fool.
and he could have killed me with his bare hands.
Confuses me and
On
plays me
March
for a fiddle
28,
like no one else alive.
1885.
I trust I will not
The jury
make a
acquitted
god-awful fool
Holiday.
of myself once more, but
And he was
somehow
freed.
I imagine I shall.
Holiday spent his remaining days in Colorado. After a stay in Leadville, he suffered from the high altitude, and he increasingly depended on alcohol and laudanum to ease the symptoms of his tuberculosis. And his health and skills as a gambler began to deteriorate. Now from there, like I said, our next episode, we will talk about the final days of Doc Holliday, and we'll talk about his funeral and his burial, and finish up the story of Doc Holliday. And then we will go into probably 3 to 4 episodes finishing up Wyatt Earp's story. You know, I said it at the beginning of this, I didn't expect there to be as many episodes about these two men as there are, but I'm actually really glad that there are, because I've managed to be able to tell a lot of stories that a lot of people don't know. I've managed to tell some details of stories that people do know, and it's been great fun, man. Like I'm enjoying fleshing these out, these stories, because like I said, there's a lot of small details of these stories that you never hear, you never really get to see in the movies. So in either case, you guys have a wonderful week, and I will catch you next week.